Hello everybody, this is Stephen Howson. This is my Southampton preview and I cannot wait for this Friday. Hopefully it's going to be Paul Pogba's debut. I put him in my starting 11, but before we get to that, let's talk a little bit about us and the opposition. So we come into this game, looking assured, if not yet reaching top gear. And I think that's a good thing. You don't want to peak too early. You don't want any sort of false dawn. A new manager, a lot of new players. It's got to take time to bed in. And I think that's something that people forget a lot. That players need time to bed in. Players need time to build chemistry. Players need time to understand everything that a manager does. So it's going to take us a few weeks. But the early signs are there that we look very assured. Defensively, we look strong. The midfield looks strong, and it's about to get a lot stronger. And going forward, we've not quite clicked yet, but we're scoring goals. It's not like we're not clicking and it's 0-0. We've scored a couple of goals in a few games. We stuck a hatful past Galatasaray. So we're getting goals without actually really seeing the passages of play that I would expect from us to start carving teams open. And that's a good thing, I think, because I think that if we're finding goals without really having to try too hard and we're not really looking too great, then that bodes well for later in the season once that chemistry clicks in, once we start seeing Mkhitaryan, once we have Paul Pogba in the side looking to create stuff. So very optimistic for the start so far. Southampton does remain a big test on Friday night though. So let's talk about Southampton. I've only watched their game against Watford, not seen any of their other pre-season games, so all of this analysis is going to come from watching how they did against Watford. Now they completely and utterly dominated the game against Watford, 64% possession, and they somehow only drew. They played a 4-3-1-2 formation. You could almost construe it as a 4-3-3 because Tadic, he didn't really operate as a striker. He definitely operated in between the space. He's almost like a completely free role. And we'll get onto Tadic a bit more in a little bit. They've got a very, very compact midfield. The three midfielders sit extremely tight, don't have a lot of distance between them. And at home, I think that's probably too much for them. But on the road, especially when they come to places like Old Trafford, that might prove difficult to break down. Now, what they do lack, because they've got the extra man up front by playing two up front with Nathan Redmond and Shane Long, is that they've got gaps around the side. So compact in the middle, but they can be got at down the flanks. And I think that's where Manchester United are going to look to attack down the flanks. But what we're going to expect from them is we're going to expect them to go tight in the middle and then look to expose us using Redmond and Long. If they play two up front on the road, they might not play two up front on the road. In the game against Watford, when they attacked with the whole front 5 or 6. They flooded forward looking for gaps, and there was people in the box, so they had options with the cross, they had options with a through ball, and that's where I think they're deadly, and I think that's where we're likely to be potentially exposed by people coming around the outside, coming around the back, getting in behind the fullback space where the fullbacks bomb on for us. As I said a second ago, Watford didn't enjoy a lot of possession. Southampton had the bulk of the possession in this game, and from what we saw in Manchester United at Bournemouth last weekend, they enjoyed a lot of possession against us as well. So it'd be interesting to see whether we're happy to allow Southampton to have the ball and try and hit them on the break. I'm not sure we'll do that at home. I think at home we're probably going to look to dominate and press. And that's where it's going to be interesting to see where the difference is in the final third, at least, between Louis van Gaal's side and Jose Mourinho's side. Because I think a lot of the build-up and certainly a lot of the defensive qualities are quite similar. But the final third is where I expect a little bit more directness and a little bit more ruthlessness and a lot less possession for the sake of possession. I think with what we've seen, and the one player I can pull out to show you, to say this is the key difference, is Tony Valencia's crossing. The first time crosses from Tony Valencia have been pulling out a lot of opportunities for Manchester United, and under Louis van Gaal, Tony Valencia's default pass, it was almost laughable. You get the ball and know exactly what he was going to do, and that was to pass it inside at a 45-degree angle. He's not done that under Jose Mourinho. He's hit the touchline, he's hit the byline, and he's bunged a crossing. And having someone like Zlatan Ibrahimovic in the middle to aim for is perfect, because he will get something on it. We spoke about it a few times, haven't we, that his height and his ability to get his feet over his head, he will get something on that ball, and that's why I think we've gone very direct with our crossing, and I think that's where the difference will be. But it will be interesting, because I think Southampton's midfield is going to be tough to break down, so it'll be interesting to see how we get through and what the opportunities to create chances are for us. Key man of the week. Alright, I can't possibly do a preview when it could be Paul Pogba's debut and leave anybody else as the key man of the week. Paul Pogba could be the key man of the season, let alone key man of the week. 89 to 100, whatever it ended up costing us for Paul Pogba is going to seem like a bargain in a few years once he's led us to league and European glory. That's how confident I am. That's how good I think Paul Pogba is. Now, a lot of people say he's a vine player, he's a highlight player, but they also say he doesn't score enough goals, he doesn't do enough in games, he doesn't grab all the games by the scruff of the neck, he was shit in the Euros. I suggest that you stop watching highlights of games and you actually watch full 90 minutes of games, because if you're saying he's a vine player, that's all you're seeing of him. That is the conclusion that I come to, that if you're saying he's a vine player, that's because you're only watching vines of him. You're not actually watching Paul Pogba play. Paul Pogba is an incredible footballer. Now, Roy Keane didn't have amazing stats. Zinedine Zidane didn't have amazing stats. And I put Paul Pogba at 23 years of age, comparatively, if not better than what those two players were at 23 years of age, which means that potential-wise, once he matures properly, once he understands how to run a game, because there's not many central midfielders at 23 that can boss a game as good as Paul Pogba does. And I don't think he bosses it entirely, but I do think he's in the top handful of footballers in the world. I think Kroos is arguably better at the way he dictates a game. Kroos is older. Kroos has had more experience. Paul Pogba is potential. Paul Pogba's a brand, and that's why we've paid so much money for him. But he's not a brand because he's all vines. He's a brand because he's a fucking good football player. And one of the things that he's got in him is he's got an inherent calmness as well as the ability to do the absolutely outrageous. Now, people tell me that he didn't have a good Euro 2016 final. I suggest to you didn't watch the Euro 2016 final. He was clearly restricted by Didier Deschamps and played in a sort of a number 6 position without any responsibility to go forward whatsoever. Now, what does that tell me? That tells me he can play a disciplined role even when it's at the detriment of his own game. Now, people were saying Sissoko was better, should have bought Sissoko. Sissoko was not better. Pogba had a near flawless game in the Euro 2016 final. Gave absolutely nothing away. Stopped a lot of the Portuguese attacks. I thought it was a fantastic game. I thought it was a disciplined game. I thought he was unable to do much with the ball at his feet. But defensively, he was absolutely fantastic. And when he did, he actually had, I think, around about 90 passes, which he misplaced like 2. Near flawless game. And that's what you're going to get with Paul Pogba when you need it. He's going to be able to do that disciplined job. But you don't get the best out of Paul Pogba for doing that. And I think Didier Deschamps did not get the best out of his assets. Because for me, France should have absolutely walked that. I mean, the fact that he was playing Gignac instead of Marshall or even some of the other French forwards is absolutely laughable. Didier Deschamps pissed away the opportunity for France to win that championship because on paper, there was no comparison with that French squad. It's absolutely fantastic. What Sissoko was doing in the final was very eye-catching and ultimately led to nothing. Do you know what that reminds me of? It reminds me of Steve McManaman. Steve McManaman would go on a run, beat 3-4 players, but there was nothing come of it because he'd get tackled by the 5th or the 6th, or he would lose the ball, or his pass wouldn't quite reach the man and it'd be intercepted. That was what was happening with Sissoko. Sissoko actually didn't create that much chances. His barnstorming runs was eye-catching, but ultimately lost the ball. He might as well have just kicked it to the opposition rather than wasting his energy going on these barnstorming runs. But what you do get with Paul Pogba is an assurance, it's a physical presence, and it's an absolute midfielder. His touch is fantastic. His first touch is absolutely out of this world. His range of passing and his vision is fantastic. He's got a fucking phenomenal shot on him. He can dictate a game. He needs to do it a little bit more. He needs to have a little bit more authority on games. But there is nothing that this guy can't do. He is the ultimate all-round midfielder, and that's why I think once you introduce him to this Manchester United side, which has so far looked very, very, very assured, then I think other teams have got a problem. And with Eric Bailly pulling up trees in defence, and Zlatan Ibrahimovic literally leading the line at the front, you put Paul Pogba in the middle, then everybody else becomes supporting cast to the Manchester United show. Because with the spine right through the team is strong, it's big, it's aggressive, and it can also play football. Now that is a trait of a Jose Mourinho team, and he's done that in his first transfer window, and he's done it brilliantly well, I think. And I cannot wait to see. It might take Pogba a few games to settle in, but I'm giving him the key man for the night because, do you know what? I think he's just got that habit, that knack of just doing something absolutely ridiculous, and I would not put it past him to score a winning goal on Friday night. Now I also have to tip my hat a little bit to Tadic. I think Tadic was man of the match against Watford. I was very, very, very impressed with his performance. Dictating play, pulling other people into the game. He looks dangerous on the ball, and he looks useful without the ball as well, to be honest. The defensive duties of him, I think the pressure that he puts on as a defensive forward Actually helps the team out massively, slots back into the midfield with ease. This is why it's hard to pin what sort of position he's down. Is he a forward? Sometimes I think, yeah, he is. He's part of the forward two, making a forward three. Sometimes he drops into midfield. He literally ghosts in between defence and attack. But when the ball's at his feet, you've got a problem. This is a guy that can unpick locks. 7 goals and 12 assists last season in only 27 games. He's got a very high output, a very high turnover of goals and assists. And I think you'll see that a lot this season. If you're playing Dream Team, this is a player that I would stick in the Dream Team because I think he's one that's going to get you points for not a lot of cash. And I think Manchester United would do well to keep an eye on this guy. You're going to have 2 forwards to deal with. So whoever's playing as the number 6, and I don't know who that's going to be. I really struggle to think how Manchester United are going to line up. I'd love to see us go to the 3, but I do think we'll stick with a 4-2-3-1. And if we do stick with a 4-2-3-1, then whose responsibility is it going to be? Is it going to be Pogba? Then we're just going to restrict him in the same way that we've just been talking about, that Deschamps did. Is it going to be Fellaini? I think Fellaini's going to get rings run round him by Tadic. I think that's a bad match. This is why I think you need a little bit more in midfield and someone whose job it is to just completely shut out everything. Maybe that's Fosu Mensah in a couple of years. Maybe that's Schneidlin. Maybe that's Carrick. Maybe Carrick can do that. Who knows? But I think Tadic is a key man that we definitely have to pay attention to. Alright, starting 11 time. Now, I'm pretty sure that Mourinho won't go with this team, but for me, this is the team that I would like to see Manchester United going with. This is the team that I think we should evolve into, and if we play this team, I think we make it extremely difficult for any other team to come close to us, in current form and on potential future form. So what I'm going to go is Big Dave in net. There's no arguments with that, I'm pretty sure. The back 4 has been fantastic so far this season, solid as a rock, very impressive in all aspects of the game. That's Tony Valencia, Luke Shaw as my fullbacks. You know the reasons why for that. Both attacking fullbacks, both extremely fast, so they can get back as well as get forward. High energy output from the pair of them, adding to the overlap that I expect to see because we do have inverted wingers on the top. So the overlap, the width, comes from Valencia and from Luke Shaw, who are both very good at crossing, both very deadly, both excellent at creating chances for us. So both of them need to play for me because that's where the width is going to come from in this side. In the middle, Daley Blind and Eric Bailly, who's probably got man of the match in both of his competitive games for Manchester United so far. What an absolute wall. Have we just replaced Vidic? That's how excited that Bailly's performances are getting people. People are starting to talk about him as the new Vidic. We might have a problem when he pisses off to the African Cup of Nations, but until then, very happy with his performance. And it turns out he was injured against Leicester. When we went and met Pogba, the night he was signed, he was limping around he was still in training kit at midnight, and I was like, stay at that. And he was limping around in the place. And I texted a couple of mates saying, Bailly's in here limping around. And then Mourinho mentioned it that he didn't tell anyone he was injured after Leicester and only managed to train on the Friday or the Thursday, I think, before, or it might have even been the Saturday before the Bournemouth game. So, absolute warrior. Love the mentality. Love the way he flies into stuff. Probably going to get a dozen red cards, but I think he might quickly become a fan favourite. And next to him, Daley Blind, the good cop to the bad cop. Daley's reading of the game is phenomenal. Daley's passing ability is phenomenal. It's just a shame that he is not quick in the slightest. If he was any faster, then he'd potentially be a world-class player, but his physical attributes let him down. He's quite small, he's quite slight, and he's not very fast. That's why his mental game is so good, because he can see everything that's going on. It's almost Scholes-like in the terms of the vision that he's got and the picture that he has in his head of what's going on in the pitch. He can be got at, he can be got round the back of, but as we saw last season when he went head-to-head with Lukaku, he can actually put up a real good presence against someone that's fucking huge like Lukaku. So I'm happy with how this defence looks at the moment, and there's question marks as how Smalling actually gets back into this side will remain to be seen. Now the key difference that I've got to the way I think Mourinho is going to go with this side, as you can see, is in the midfield. Schneidlin, Herrera, Pogba in a midfield 3. Schneidlin sit in front of the back 4, protect that back 4. Essentially it'll probably end up being a back 3 of Bailly, Billand and Schneidlin, because the other two, the fullback, are going to be bombing on. So Schneidlin's role in this is very important. I don't want to see him playing forward passes. I don't want to see him making final balls. I don't want to see him putting a ball into the box for someone to finish off. What I want Schneidlin to do is stop Tadic. What I want Schneidlin to do is protect anything, to get in and around Shane Long, to trip Redmond up, to stop attacks on the halfway line if they're breaking against us. I want him to be a master of those Makelele dark arts. I want him to stop everything. Just fucking shut it down and then pass it to Herrera or pass it to Paul Pogba. and then go back to your position. That is it. He has got the simplest but one of the most difficult jobs in the team to be able to do that. It takes a level of discipline, it takes a serious engine, and I think Schneiderlin's got both of those things. And I think between the three, I think there's a complement between all three of these midfielders, and I think they could play absolutely fantastic together. I would even like to put Rooney in Herrera's spot, but I know Jose Mourinho won't do it, so it's Herrera for me in this spot at the moment. Which moves us on to the forward three. On the right hand side, Mkhitaryan. Extremely impressed with the games that we saw from him in pre-season, like way more than I expected. He looks phenomenal, and his attributes and stats that he's got from Dortmund, bringing those into the Premier League, we just need to get this guy into the team. I don't want to drop Mata, who's looked great, but I do think Mkhitaryan needs a run out. So I want to see Mkhitaryan given the opportunity on the right hand side. And because he's an inverted winger, he doesn't really go around the outside. He is going to be cutting inside. I'm going to be looking to Valencia to make the width by going past him, but also make some space for him by going past. And once he starts cutting in the middle, that's when you might see opportunities open up for a square ball to Pogba arriving late on the edge of the box, or feeding one through to the opposite side of the box for Memphis or Ibrahimovic to get on the end of. Obviously, Ibrahimovic leading the line. What can you say about Ibrahimovic? 3 goals in 3 games. I don't include the testimonial. So 3 goals in 3 games. He's not exactly lit the world up, but he's always found a way to score. Now, if he can play like that all season and find a way to score in every single game, sound, you're fine by me. I do like the physical aspect that he brings to the game. I don't really like the way he comes away. That's the problem I always had with Rooney when he was a number 9. I don't like the way he comes so deep. And the reason I'm playing Memphis is because Ibrahimovic is coming so deep. What I want to see from Memphis is Memphis getting in behind. As soon as Ibrahimovic drops off, Memphis needs to make those diagonal runs into the box for Mkhitaryan or Pogba or Herrera to find. Once he starts making those runs, he's going to get opportunities, and I think he's got the talent and the skill to put them away. And obviously Memphis himself on the left-hand side. I want to see him cutting inside with Luke Shaw. We saw the partnership of Luke Shaw and Memphis last season. Luke Shaw bombs down the wing. It gives the defender the eyes. The defender gets stood up and is like, oh, who am I going with? And in that split second, Memphis has been able to cut inside and get a shot off. He was very effective with that in the early part of the season, and his form mirrored the injury of Luke Shaw. They both got completely taken out of the season as soon as Luke Shaw was injured, and I think that was a key component of it. Luke Shaw timing his runs to perfection, mixing up the fullback, leaving him in 2 minds, and in that indecision, Memphis would strike and cut inside and create something. I hope Memphis can get back to that. Luke Shaw being at the top of his game, Memphis being at the top of his game is absolutely deadly. Now, I've took a few players out. I've took Rooney out, I've took Fellaini out, I've took Mata out, and I've took Marshall out. I might have said Marshall already, actually, but I've took those lads out. I just want to freshen it up a little bit. I thought Fellaini played very well. One of the best games I've seen Fellaini have in a United shirt, and that was because of his positional discipline. Last season, season before that really, we didn't see any positional discipline from Marouane Fellaini. He was sort of like an off-lead puppy just fucking running around and causing havoc. And I don't think that suited him. And I think Mourinho's come in and he's given him a specific role, and I thought he did that role excellently. He didn't try a single risky pass, which is why his pass completion was excellent against Bournemouth. And I would be happy for him to be in the team in the more difficult games. And I don't consider Bournemouth a difficult game, but first game of the season, first one out, getting your pre-season shaking out your legs, it is a difficult game. So we've gone there, we've put in a decent performance, and Marouane Fellaini was key to that. I don't want to see him at home. I want to see him in the tough games where we are going to have to battle, and I still want to see him coming off the bench and causing havoc when everything else hasn't gone right. But not the first option. The first option when everything's not gone right, I think has to be Marcus Rashford. Marcus Rashford's tempo and intensity is so good that I think you have to use Marcus Rashford as your first plan B. Ibrahimovic, it's not gone right for him. 70 minutes are on the clock, 75 minutes. Do you know what? Marcus, go warm up, you're going on. Bring Marcus Rashford on, and instead of playing balls into the box, let's start playing them through the box. We saw when he came on against Galatasaray, one of the first passes that Wayne Rooney played to him, he managed to win a penalty. That's what Marcus Rashford can do. He's going to get in behind the defence. And the thing that he didn't have in the under-18s, which he seems to have just completely found to another level once he hit the first team, was composure and finishing. And his composure and finishing at the moment means that once he gets in behind the defence, he's either going to draw a foul or he's going to put it away. We've seen him do it against City. We've seen the wonderful goal he scored against West Ham. He causes absolute havoc with the ball at his feet. So that's my first plan. My first go-to is Marcus Rashford for Ibrahimovic. Once Ibrahimovic has softened up a centre-half, you bring Marcus Rashford on. The guy's absolutely twisted, isn't he? So there you go. That's my starting 11. And my prediction, I actually think Manchester United, we are conceding. I think that changes at home. I think we're going to be a lot tighter at home. I think we're going to have a lot more of the ball. And I'm going to say Manchester United, I'm torn actually, 2-0. I'm going to say it's a very comfortable, professional 2-0 win. I want to say 3 because I think that the home crowd, the excitement, the bringing Pogba back and everything like that, we could really put them away. But I'm not going to get too carried away. I'm going to say 2-0, real professional performance. I think Zlatan scores on his home debut. And I think Memphis gets one and kicks off his Manchester United career again if he starts. If not, I think it might be Paul Pogba if he starts, that captures some of the headlines, and what a way to do it. Anyway, thank you for watching. This has been my preview. If any of you guys are on the Red Devils Reddit, please submit the video to Reddit. Stick a couple of comments in there. I'd like to get more videos in on the Reddit and start discussing with some people on there. So if you do submit stuff to Reddit, please chuck the video up on there, and I'll dive in the comments on there as well. So thank you for watching. Give me a big fat thumbs up, and if you've come from Reddit, then please subscribe, because there's loads more videos like this. I hope you like the graphics. First time trying out the graphics like this, so hopefully these graphics look good. Get some discussion going in here as well if you want, and there'll be more videos out every single day. That's what I do on here. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon. Laters.